I can't hear anything.
Oh, you can't hear the music.
No.
Man, I tried to test it out before, but we are playing Pedro, Pedro, Pedro. Oh my goodness, that man. Buongiorno, buon pomeriggio, e buonasera, Lazio world. Welcome to our instant reaction pod. I am your host, Sean McIntosh, joined by Caleb Adams. My goodness, here to chat about the chaos that was Milan Lazio. And man, it's what a crazy match that was. Honestly, Serie A this weekend has given us some thrillers, and for anyone that doesn't pay attention to the league, this is what this league is. It is chaos. It is. It's always it's never lacking storylines. This
Yeah.
one, talk about mix a run or roller coaster of emotions. Caleb, we'll jump in here where we always do, but how do you feel like? Because I'm kind of like all over the place. Because this one, my word, I still haven't come down to the end, or I think I'm still angry. So how you doing?
There's definitely a roller coaster of emotions, but right now I got one emotion. That's just relief. Oh my goodness, I just feel so relieved. Not even so much. I'm not even really ecstatic for the win. I just have this feeling of just like overwhelming relief. Oh, when Pedro scored, I was like, it was. I just let out like a sigh of like, oh, thank God, because it could have. This could have been a very different podcast and a whole different
Oh
vibe
yeah,
right
yeah,
now.
yeah. Well, it's certainly like I don't know. You just with Lazio, you're always like scared of the worst, and I certainly was. Where it's like
Mhm.
and we'll talk about it more, but relief. I was definitely fucking going nuts when we scored when Pedro bagged that, but yeah, let's jump into this thing. Some talking points already with the starting 11. You see Provedel back, and Baroni told us that Provedel was the starter despite Mandas getting the nod in the last Serie A match. And I'll say hats off for Baroni kind of telling the truth and not using it as like a way to just say the right thing in the
Yeah.
media. Like, we can debate the decision, but he stuck by his man, brought Provedel back, and outside of that, you've got the change in Gigot for Romagnoli, and then Chauna again tapped to be the one leading the line in place of an injured Tati, and we'll probably cover our thoughts there. But aside from that, it's your typical players. And this one, I mean, 3 minutes into it, you had a really what a just fantastic ball by Rovella, breaking through the defense, breaks the lines, giving Dia just a magnificent opportunity, and Dia can't finish, and it's really a lot of that for a little bit. And that Lazio on the front foot. You see a dangerous Nuno 6 minutes in where he plays a spectacularly dangerous ball across the box that almost finds its way bouncing in behind Maignan. And you have Dia minutes later with an opportunity where I know you and I initially really upset with Dia in that moment, but when you take a look at the replays, he is fouled, and we are calling for a card, and it's not given. They don't take to VAR. Obviously, full circle because we finally get our VAR call to close this one out. But it's the 28th minute where we finally break through after chance after chance after chance. And it's really started off by some nice work by two guys who we probably bitch more about than say good things. And Marusic and Chauna. Marusic does a really nice job winning the ball back, playing it to Chauna. Chauna with a nice little weighted ball back, making the right decision to play it back to Marusic, who takes a crack at goal. Poor handling of the rebound by Magnan. And it's Zaccagni who simply wants it more, attacking the rebound and finding the back of the net. Really wonderful from our captain. And you see a Lazio close out that first half without a doubt, the dominant, the better side. And we're all kind of holding our breaths because it's not quite enough. And of course, we spend the next 30 or so minutes still attacking, somewhat to our dismay once we get late into the game. And then I want to say the unexpected happens, but we all knew this was coming. It's the 84th minute, and Nuno completely loses Chukwueze, who heads it past Provedel, and we're all irate because it's a match we should have put away. And then here we are with Isaacson being taken down in the box by Magnan. It's I'll be honest, I wasn't sure it was a penalty on first glance. I thought Isaacson kind of hustled over the keeper.
He did a little bit. Look, to be fair, he did a little bit. Like he definitely,
yep. but literally
legit contact.
First review. This was the shortest VAR review I've ever seen because immediately he saw the replay. We all saw and was like, he got him. It's a pen. And Pedro steps up, and he had this smirk right before he took it. And I looked and I was like, it's a goal. Like Pedro's got the look, got the smirk.
Up. Pause. Did you not say in the group chat the first name you said that I should go up and take the pen was Nuno?
Oh no, for sure. But what I'm saying is, once he smirked, I was like, it's like it's a goal. Like he's cool. He hits the back of the net. 2-1. Give me your 3 words or less to describe this match.
My 3 words to describe this match are I'm debating between a positive and a more negative connotation.
I'll go. Maybe mine will lead you.
Go ahead.
Mine,
yeah.
And maybe this kind of checks both marks, so it might make it more difficult. Bailed, but deserved.
Okay, that's good.
Very clearly bailed out. However, let me make it crystal clear. Bailed out in that we were fortunate that Milan is an absolute disaster. And we talk about how we sometimes aren't very smart. Milan says, hold that, because they are perhaps the dumbest side in Serie A this season. They just have players that are reckless and don't really they don't have any captains. They don't have any real leaders right now on that side. And so we were bailed out by the correct call. So I don't want it to come across as like we were bailed out by a bad call. Like that was the right call, but deserved. We were very obviously the better side. It would have been demoralizing, depressing, and disastrous if we had not come out with all 3 points. Just to highlight that, with some simple stats, Milan was the dominant side on possession. Very clear that they didn't really know what they were doing with the ball, but 61% possession to Lazio's 39. They were a much better side than they were in the first half. Absolutely. But expected goals 1.45 to Lazio's 2.85. Evidence, right, that we should have scored. We should have scored 3 goals. We should have at minimum 2 goals in the first 35 minutes. Total shots, Lazio's 21 to Milan's 15. We had 8 on target. We had 3 big chances, and some of those chances that weren't even calculated because we're just a bit unlucky in that some of those balls just bounced in, and like we're so close to just slipping through Magnan. So definitely the deserved results. and we got in our own way, and we were bailed out by a little bit of fortune. The first VAR call all season that has gone our way. So
Wow.
about damn time, and it
How many
couldn't have been
games? How many
more
total games have you
critical.
played?
I think we were like, I'd have to go back. I want to say it was
Okay,
like
okay.
0 for 7 from
Well,
what I
I can
saw.
say we've played.
Oh, how many games played? I was gonna say I think it was like 7 VAR calls that had gone against us at minimum.
27 games played, and we get our first VAR call.
That went
We're
our way.
like more than 2/3 of the season.
So it came at a great time. Again, it was
Huge.
absolutely the right call. But yeah, bailed but deserved.
I like that. I'm gonna go with um, I'm gonna go with strategy secures success. So what do I mean by this? It's probably a better way of phrasing it, but I like the triple S there. But strategy secures success. I think that in this case, game management was a thing we're going to probably talk about more so here in this show. But I thought the game management and the strategical approach to the match, particularly after they got the red card, was poor. And we can debate about whether it's Baroni, whether it's the players, a bit of both. Usually is, but I think that the effort is there, right? I think the quality is there. Two things about this team. I think the effort in this team, the heart in this team is there. I think we have good quality, good enough quality to keep this run going, compete for top 4. I think the quality is there. I just think we need to fine tune our strategy a little bit as we go down the stretch. And I think this game is a perfect example of a lack of game management, which we've shown in the past during this season. It's rarely been, there's some games where it's been lack of heart, but lack of heart in running are usually not the reason we lose. Individual quality in many cases, you could argue, but generally not really the reason we're losing games. For me, it's come down to like poor strategical decisions from either coaching or players. And so while we got the result, that was way more stressful than it needed to be. That should have been when they got that red, it should have been all right, let's wrap this up, chill out here, take it home, call it a day. So those are my 3 words for the game.
No, you're absolutely right. I think right. We talk about a lot of the positives with Baroni. He has this side playing with heart. He has them fighting, the efforts there. They very clearly understand their assignments and how he wants to play. I think they all have that down pat. Now it's about managing moments, and he has to have them shift how they play in certain situations. We know this coming into the derby. You can't come into a derby right away just opening yourselves up. And I sure as hell hope he's learned that lesson. I'm a little bit pessimistic in that because we don't see any style of play differently. Today, another case in point, the moment, up a goal, up a man, 80th minute, you have to change the way you're playing. Milan is not playing well. Again, 60% possession. They're not really doing a ton there. Manage the moment. There has to be the instruction. And it starts on the training grounds where you dedicate that time to say, like, this is how we play. I believe in this style of play. Deviating from that doesn't signal a lack of faith in how you're playing. You just have to be able to switch in different moments. And today it called for a little bit of taking the tempo away.
Just composure.
And just composure, right? Like, I love that there's a killer instinct. I love that there's a desire to go for extra goals. But again, the only goal that we have in this match is to come away with 3 points. You're up a man. Like, Nuno and Zaccagni and Isaacson, take your touch and then recycle the play and don't. I mean, yes, there were some moments that were unfortunate where, if Nuno gets by the one last defender, or he had played a really nice ball to Isaacson, gets by the one guy, sure, but in the 83rd, 84th minute, you have to understand that the 3 points are now yours to lose. and you're up a man. We have to, in order to be a Champions League side. That for me is the piece that Baroni has to take a step forward if he's going to be the manager that is part of this project that moves us into Champions League level sides. Is that fair, Caleb?
Yeah, I think it's also fair to say, I think we're both sort of on the same page. Like, we don't mean this to hate Baroni. I think we're both really quite, pleasantly surprised to a degree, very content and happy with how things have been going on at Baroni. I think it's been a phenomenal season so far. Even the fact that we're, just the fact that we're having these conversations about top four and being in a real race and being a real front runner on that page, right? Like, all this, the fact that we've been able to discuss this stuff is a huge credit to Baroni, taking a pretty much completely new look side, no key players from the past generation here at Lazio, and being able to turn this team into a competitive side year one, right? Just a few months in, like, huge credit to Baroni for that. But I think Baroni's game management has been his biggest flaw. This also goes to substitutes. When I say game management, I mean understanding how to change and sort of make adjustments with the flow of the game, the status of the game. But it's also understanding what kind of players we need for those instances, right? His subs have been, we can say, weird, at the very best, right? Like, really odd substitute choices. Also really inconsistent. I've noticed that Baroni had no problems playing some really young players, but there's some other young players that he just isn't putting in, right? And of course, like, preseason, all this, trust, all this factors in, but it doesn't seem to be a consistency in the way that he substitutes. I don't know. The only consistency I see is that it's just odd. It's like odd. Vecino coming in is, I get that, bring some, some veteran experience, but I think the idea was to take sort of control of the game more, and it didn't work.
Yeah, for me, it didn't work because, and the reason why it's odd is, like, it would have made sense 2 months ago, right? When it was like, all right, Vecino is like fit. All right, you started to trust him. Vecino was obviously a guy he was like leaning on, but he hasn't played in months. And we talk about throwing players in, and it's about the timing, what makes sense. I mean, hasn't played. I don't know how fit he is. He's definitely not match fit because he hasn't played a match. And so, of all the moments to throw somebody in, it's odd when you have Belayan, who's coming off a really solid performance, who has the legs, and has a profile really similar to Rovella, and give me somebody else that can win the ball and take advantage of some of the space that's out there with Milan being down a man. I just found it real interesting that the timing of Vecino Abdon in this match, in that moment, seemed a little bit interesting to me.
I do also want to say this, is that even like just a lot of inconsistencies there, even with some of the lineup choices, and that strategy comes into play too when, like, Shauna had a bad start, at striker, not really fair to the kid, to be fair, but seeing that, coming back with that again for another game, he was a little bit better today, to be fair, but also, stuff like that's just kind of odd. But what I really want to harp on this is that Baroni does have an other side. Like, Baroni comes from relegation teams, right? Teams that are battling relegation, clawing for a point. And in this case, like, you mentioned to me on a text, oh, it's just always go, go, go Baroni. But it's like, it wasn't that way when he was at Verona. Like, it was much more conservative at Verona. He is capable of playing different styles. I think one of the things that we talked about Baroni early on was his adaptability. Like, he's always been around the strength of his players. That's always what seems to be his biggest priority, is if his players have these strengths. That's why Nuno's bombing up, and he has the freedom, and the way Baroni has set up the system is to allow Nuno to play as a pseudo winger, right? So that's credit to Baroni for getting the most out of someone like Nuno, who's been a misfit at some teams in the past. Yep. But hey, we, just as Inzaghi had a learning curve and he had his issues, I think we need to have the same sort of patience with Baroni, who's also just learning this new level, his team. I have faith that he will continue to improve. but that's just something that needs to change. Hopefully in the future, particularly with the big tournament, adjustments are probably no more important than in elimination games. You
Yeah.
know, going at halftime saying, okay, how can we change this to win this, right? So I trust in Baroni, though.
Yeah, I want to comment on FC here, who says you guys picked us to have a really bad year. Now you're trashing the coach, even though you said we had bad players at the start of the season. You're wrong, bro. Because a couple things, like we literally started talking, highlighting and praising the positive things that Baroni brings to the table. Like the team is really well organized. They understand how to play his style of football. Obviously, he's the most important thing is he has players that believe, that fight, that move forward. We never trashed the players. Like we were pretty happy with the players that we have on our side. Now let's all be 100% honest with ourselves. Like we are overachieving this season based on expectations. Like no doubt. You find me anybody that said that we were going to finish in top 4, and I'll tell you that dude was a homer. Like you're just like hopeful, you're a homer, you're a Laziale, like it's okay. Like we try and pride ourselves with being like fairly balanced in our takes, and we love Baroni. I mean, like make no mistake, like huge, like we're both pro Baroni. That doesn't mean we can't be critical about him when we feel like it's necessary. Like we won the match, 3 points, most important thing. Nothing else matters. I mean, Caleb and I have both been on record saying like there's nothing more overrated than like your style of play. The only thing that matters is 3 points. So like I'm thrilled, but we have to, like, we're going to assess the games, and there are things that went well and things that didn't go well. Again, we were bailed out. We shouldn't have been in a situation where it was 1-1. So we've got to talk about it. We've got to say, like, why were we there? And, you know, just as much as players have a blame, like, so does the manager. And that's kind of what we're doing here. Like, by no means do we think that Baroni is at fault. We're 100%, you know, feel like we are overachieving expectations. But here we are. We are currently in 4th. We do have confidence in this team. Some of the players are better players than we probably thought they were. Some of the players are worse than we thought they were, right? Like there are players that we thought like Noslin, you know, and like we're both really adamant about, particularly like take someone like Chauna, who, I mean, he's been buns. Like there it is what it is. Like he has not been good for Lazio this season, and we were both really excited, really high on him. But we've also said from the beginning, he is a kid. And this is his first season, and we're always going to give people, you know, 2 seasons, feel them out, see how they do. And I'm in no way, shape, or form ready to give up on a player like Chauna, who is really young, who today is playing out of position. He's not a number 9. You can see his natural tendency in so many moments today was to drift wide. There was a break in the match where Nuno was literally charging up the field. I think it was the 26th minute. An awesome opportunity. We're on the counter. Hila's got the ball, darting. Nuno goes wide, but then so does Chauna. And you very clearly understand that Chauna doesn't understand his role as a striker and where he needs to be positionally to open up space. He's just clogging the lane for Nuno, right? Like that's not 100% Chauna's fault. That is something that if I'm going to place blame and say, you know, I'm going to look at Baroni and say, all right, like we've seen Chauna at the 9. He's not a 9. Like, you know, and even the goal that we scored, it's a really nice job from Chauna, but Chauna's out wide playing the winger role, you know, and does a nice job playing the ball back to Marusic. So, point being, like, you know, make no mistake, like we're both pro Baroni, but I do think today's match is something that if we're going to be honest with ourselves, like that's an area that Baroni needs to improve is you know, finding different ways to play, because we clearly don't always understand the moment unless we're down. Like we do have that gear where we're trying to like attack. But when we're up a man, we've got to find a little bit more tactical astuteness. Same as in a derby or in a match against some of your bigger sides, where we've got to start them a little bit differently. So that's my point. Tell me, what you see? What did you see from Baroni and how he set us up that ultimately, especially in that first 45 minutes, had us dominating Milan?
I think the midfield pivot today was particularly good in this game. I think that, to be fair, I mean Milan's midfield, Musa, Fofana, they're both players, younger players, talented. But Guendouzi, Rovella, I say it time and time again, they are top in this league. Easily top 3, top 4 midfield pairing. They set the tone. They set a lot of the pace today. And I mean, Musa was subbed out in the 40th minute. Whether you agree or not, the midfield forced Conceição to make a change before the half even ended. And so I think they added that extra player, an extra attacker, and Felix to try and have someone in between them two, because they were winning everything and stuffing everything out. And so when Felix came in, I was under the impression that he came in to sort of be an unbalancing factor between those two today, who were both excellent. And to be fair, it worked a bit in the second half. We saw that even though Felix, we don't really rate him all that much, having that extra sort of attacking player moving around those spaces, took a little bit of control than what we had. So kudos to Conceição for that adjustment. But, Baroni again started as well. I'm sort of seeing a recent trend here with the bigger teams. And Sean, tell me if you agree, but our first 30 to 40 minutes against these bigger teams is always like excellent for the most part. Like,
for the most part, aside from a derby, that's always going to be like, for me, when you think about a derby, it typically comes down to like a mistake, and that's one that a match can be thrown on its head. But I think you're right. Like a lot of times, we do come out really early as the better team.
Yeah,
it comes down to finishing your chances or just being a little bit crisper in that final third. Or today, case in point, we miss a couple chances, and then like anything, there's ebbs and flows. And even when you are playing as poorly as Milan has, they have quality, right? They have players like, as you said, neither one of us really rate João Felix, but he is a player that has technical quality that, given one moment, right? Pulisic is a good player. Like, given the moments, Leao, as frustrating a player in the world, he is not a player who I deem as world class. I think he is just, and to be honest, like a far cry from it, like, because he is just not consistent. But again, let's not kid ourselves. He is a player that can punish you, and we have been punished by Leao time and time again because of his pace and his ability to, when he turns it on and when he shows that he cares and he's awake, like absolutely a dangerous player. So the where we always get stung is the fact that we don't capitalize early, and then all it takes is that one bad moment or that one moment of brilliance from a Milan who overall was underperforming, and that almost happened today, right? Like it almost happened.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But once again, like, we win I don't want to be like the XG. It's always more about XG, or more than just XG. But it is interesting that so often, like, we are the better side. Like, there are moments,
right?
It's just we have to be a little bit better at finishing,
if we can. It seems, and sometimes I think earlier in the season we would have stronger second halves, funny enough, and it's sort of like shifted a little bit, I think, here during this year. But if we can just bring out and play 80 minutes, 80 minutes of how we play in those, particularly against Inter, even in the Coppa Italia, the first 30 minutes was solid. I texted, I was like, I'm getting PTSD. We have a great 30 minutes. I mean, they're gonna score here. The other team, sure enough, Inter did. But if we're able to just find some, if we're able to really keep that consistency throughout a game, this is a really good side. I mean, we're playing to everyone's level right now. There's not a team in the league right now where I can confidently say this team is going to completely outplay us the entire game.
Yeah. I mean, think about it, right? Juve, a match where we outperform them down a man, and it's an own goal, unfortunate own goal by Gila. The first time we played Milan, another one where we're like, damn it, should have been a better result. Like, we outperformed them. Tonight, no questions asked, outperform, come out with the 3 points. Napoli, done, right? Like, not only did we beat them the first 2 times, but that third time, another annoying result. Clearly the better side, should have been better, should have had the result. We end with a draw. Inter is the one team that, we started off playing really, really well, but, 6-0, okay, everything kind of fell apart. But I think you're right. Like, head to head against any and everybody, by just the run of play and how we come to perform, I'm confident, but it comes in these moments,
right?
And that is the next shift, like the next step in
you know what I think it comes down to, though, to be frank. I think we also have a group of players that have been inconsistent throughout their career in general.
Some have a career, so it is
right.
Like
so
Kauna,
exactly.
being your starting striker. There's a very clear gap in quality right now. Like Tati, this goes to show how important somebody like Tati is. And we don't have him. We have players,
but
even now.
Even Tati's an up and down player, though.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure.
You can argue Dia. He's been a decent striker in this league, but he's never been lights out all year long, all the time. I think when Guendouzi, Ravella, a little bit different. I think they're some more consistent players.
Yeah, our 3 most consistent. Well, more than 3. I mean, we do it like Guendouzi. You know what you're going to get. Rovella, know what you're going to get. Zaccagni. I think Gila, Romagnoli. That is probably our.
I don't know. For me, I find Romagnoli more reliable than Gila, because Gila has excellent games, but he also has some stinkers and makes some dumb decisions at times. But certainly, our Nuno Tavares has been excellent. Some days he's phenomenal, unplayable, but then there's the other side of this game. Our right back, Marusic, even Provedel has also been an up and down player for us recently. So I think that plays a factor as well. Just like Milan, I think the reason why Milan are in this state is, while they have a lot of talent, like you said, a lot of the players are up and down players in general across the board. So that that for me is definitely a factor.
So I think Milan is I think Milan is a dumpster fire right now, not because they have inconsistent players.
Yeah,
I think I think they are rotting from the top down. I think
I agree.
they are soulless. They have players that, if I'm a Milanista, like they wouldn't deserve to be wearing the shirt. You've got players, you've got a ton of egos. You've got guys like Leao and Theo that shouldn't wear a captain's armband. You have a lot of the same challenges that we had maybe last year, where it's stale leadership. You don't have everybody kind of on the same page. There's not that same hunger, and it's time to just wipe things clean. If I was Milan, right? Like, if you were going to sell somebody 2 years ago, I would have sold Leao and Theo instead of selling off Tonali. But, that's for a Milan podcast. But I do think a lot of what we were last year with us, where it was like, okay, this group is old. I love Cheeto more than anyone. He was one of my favorite players of all time. But like, between him, between Luis Alberto, between Felipe Anderson, like, the voices got old. There's a reason why we never were successful in Europa. I don't think they cared. I don't think there was that motivation. And so when you bring in a manager like Baroni, who is not, like, no disrespect to him, he has not accomplished a ton. It's going to be really tough for him to demand a respect from players like Ciro and Alberto and Felipe, who have accomplished a lot. You're gonna all of a sudden you have a clash of cultures, and so to Latito's credit, it was a big refresh, and it was the right project, and it's about getting the right manager at the right time. So we were talking about whether, hey, did we dodge a bullet with Conceição? Like, I don't think Conceição. I think nobody could have come in and helped and fixed this Milan side, and so we were really fortunate to get a manager at the right time, right group of players that are a little bit younger. Zaccagni is our biggest player, in terms of like probably his like, how he's viewed, but he is not this ego. He is not this world class of this big name that's going to come with like these demands. He's more like,
well, this is the main difference for me. This is why I like our squad. Is even though you could argue that a lot of quite a few, even the starters are inconsistent in nature and performance wise, they're team first players.
yes.
So even if they don't score a goal, they're still going to try to find ways to impact the game and not pout and complain about not getting the ball or not getting that shot off, not getting that pass. Things are not going their way. I think it's very different to a lot of Milan's players right now, where it is very much a individualistic culture of players. 100%. Despite the inconsistent, they're very good players, very good talent, they're inconsistent. But give me a team like Lazio right now that I'd rather, if I'm going to have inconsistent players, I want them to be a team first, hustle dogs. I'm okay with that. We can work with that.
Yeah, Zaccagni is subbed off in the 78th minute, and there's no complaints. He's not throwing a fit. He's not shouting. There's no ego. It's okay, mister. Like, that's what you need from me. That's what's going to happen. So, it's a really strong mentality. It is, it's a group of players that honestly, they're all very likable. Even, somebody like Chauna, who sometimes we can get frustrated with, who, in the derby did do something foolish in trying to nutmeg and be right and within his own box. But by and large, like, players that just at least all fight, and you see that because of it's what Baroni's demanding, but our leaders are doing that. Yeah. Rovella, incredible, right? He had a moment in this match, 73rd minute. If I'm cutting tape and telling somebody like, what is Rovella? Like, he had the pass in the 3-minute mark, and then in the 73rd minute, it's the perfect cut. Like, that, maybe that's what we'll cut. Find the highlight, 3 minutes, incredible pass, and then in the 73rd minute, when his team needs the best tackling midfielder in the world, I said it. He's got Leao, pace demon. There is clearly a difference in pace between Leao and Rovella. And what does Rovella do? Shackles him. Can't get by him. Tackle, win the ball, keeps possession in a critical moment in the game. That's who we have on this team. You have players like Guendouzi, who wins an incredible ball, great tackle, and then makes a pass on a dime to Isaacson in space. Isaacson reading it really well, but what happens? Pavlovic takes him down, red card. Awesome job by Isaacson, sure, but Guendouzi, the fighting, the ball winning, the tackle, and then he makes the pass. That combination of skill, but first it starts with fight. And even Zaccagni is like that. So that's why for me, it's such a likable team. It's of course I want Lazio to be successful because it's Lazio, but damn, do I want to finish top 4 because I really, really like this group of players.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. This team really reminds me a lot of the Atletico Madrid, right? There's sort of this outsider team that's kind of, it's a little different because there's, in my opinion, less competitive teams at the top in Spain. But I get this sort of vibe of being a sort of an Atletico Madrid of Serie A, where, we're always kind of in and around that fight. We're always counted out, but just a group mentality and fight within the group makes the group likable. It makes you want to, go through a brick wall for him, right? And so it's a really fun group. I'm really enjoying this group, and it's so refreshing after a year of a lot of egos, toxicity, every week it seems like there's something about Alberto on the news. But hey, I'm just rooting for a really strong finish here because I would love to see these guys rewarded for their work with the top 4 spot.
Yeah.
In a Europa League,
Give me your man of the match tonight.
Guendouzi for me.
Okay.
I thought Guendouzi was brilliant. Ravella gets a lot of love. I don't think Guendouzi still gets enough love. Like Ravella's been on the hype, which is very much deserved. There should be a ton of hype around Ravella, but I think Guendouzi, that he came in with this what can I even say? It was like a bias or like some sort of image of him as being this sort of like lazy, troublemaker. But I think he's completely disproved people who believe that, or it was either your club was toxic and he was just trying to get out of there, right? But Guendouzi, since his arrival, there are very few players we can say this is a key locked in player every single game, no matter what. Since his arrival, Guendouzi has been an absolute lock and a staple. And week in and week out, I think there's a stat that I saw where, let me see if I can find it, that he's played, I think, some like 500 straight games without an injury, something like that, like when he's available, something crazy like that. And he is still running and chasing people in the 85th minute, can release the ball well, telling his teammates, screaming at his teammates, step up, let's go. Very vocal. Today he had 87% passing accuracy from 46 passes, 5 out of 7 accurate long balls. That's more impressive to me. 71% in long balls to release us and play. Won over 50% of his ground duels today. Two interceptions, 9 defensive actions, 6 recoveries, 3 clearances. He was everywhere today. Absolutely everywhere today.
Yeah, it's a good shout, and there's a reason why he gets call-ups to the French national team. I mean, he may not be getting a ton of the love and hype from your average fan, but their national team at least recognizes how valuable he is. I'm gonna give it to I would have given it to Nuno before his very poor missed defensive assignment, because I thought he was all over the place. He really was. Dangerous balls, his passing, even the free kick he had was really nice. Like I just thought he was having a really great performance. Obviously, Chukwueze left open. He's got to do better in those moments. I even thought he was playing a lot better defensively. There were times where he was winning the ball, and I was like, "Damn, here we go, Nuno." But because of that, I'll go with Isaacson. I thought.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I thought Isaacson was really, really good.
Okay.
You think about his involvement. He was taking on defenders. I think he was like 50% on his take-ons. He had 12 touches inside of the box. He was finding his way. He earned the red, and then who's the player that earned the penalty at the end of the match?
Yeah, good shout.
I thought he just had a really strong impact. I mean, even early in the game, like he takes a crack from like distance. I thought he was super lively. You see the confidence in him. I thought he was a big part. So much of the frustration with him this season has been when he was invisible and he just seemed like he shied away. Today, really, really loved what I saw from him. And honestly, there was a lot of really positive performances. Who'd you have as your bidone?
I mean, it's honestly, like, I think it's kind of unfair to anyone in this game. I don't think anyone was particularly bad. I'm going to go with Shauna simply because he was probably, again, it's really unfair to him because he's playing out of position, tough game. Like, it's kind of harsh, but I do think he can be sharper. I do think he can be better on the ball.
Yeah.
I think, but again, how much of that is, is his youth, out of position, not the minutes he's used to getting. Still a lot of question marks around the player overall. This isn't helping him, and that's on Baroni, I think, in this case. But yeah, I mean, that's a very soft, like.
No, look,
I'm just throwing out there, really.
Yeah, I had, in consideration, it's Chauna, but then again, I look back and it's like he is playing out of position. He definitely is not good. So I can only judge him in what we saw. But he had his part to play in the goal that we scored. It was like, okay. Nuno, again, I could say, damn, am I going to wipe off all the positive because of that? Like, maybe, right? I would have. Yeah. But like, you do have to just take care of some of the basics. And then, our friend Adrian Trito, like I don't disagree. He threw a shout in there for Baroni, and it's like, again, we're playing Shauna out of position. I think just having that instruction to be a little bit more sound. Some of the substitutions, I think there's a fair out for
That's
him
fair.
in this one. It would have been a match that we would have all been just so regretful
Oh yeah.
about, and a lot of that comes from just buttoning up a couple things, and I think those are some of the areas where a manager can control.
Yeah.
So all fair shouts. It's probably going to come up either way. Like I hate assigning one, but we have to. So if I'm going with a player, I'll probably give it to Dia, and that is
Hey,
because
that's fair. That's
again,
not a bad shout.
not like clinical when we needed him to, and a little bit more invisible, but like again, Chauna is it has things like a little bit clogged up, and he's not in his right position, and so if I'm going a player, then I'll go with Dia because of him missing his opportunity. But overall, like I think there is a real claim for like throwing Baroni in there as a shout for this. So
Cool.
well, look, we take a look at kind of what's to come. We are now in fourth, so live look at the table. What a fantastic Serie A season. You've got Inter with 58 points, Napoli 57, Atalanta 55, Lazio with 50, and then Juve, who still has to play their match against Hellas Verona tomorrow, right behind us at 49. And then all of a sudden you got Bologna 47, Fiorentina 45, and then Roma, who continue to be gifted time and time again, is now climbing up the table. So it's going to be a really interesting run here. Back to Europa this Thursday at noon, and then Monday Udinese. Before we get a little bit of a break in terms of like quality of our opponents, but all important matches. Caleb, man, Thursdays are always tough. What's your schedule look like? We going to be able to record on Thursday or?
Man, probably not, to be honest. I'll definitely catch the game, but just don't count on me. Hopefully you can do that surprise, but yeah.
Well, we'll do our best to make sure we have something set up for that one. Incredible finish today on the end of a really positive VAR call. Whether VAR is for us or against us, sempre forza